look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spend. Take another look now and take some time for hemp. I don't cut trees for paper, cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Whoa, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rest. Well, right now it's time for hemp.
Thank you for taking Time for Hemp. I'm your host, Casper Leitch. You are listening to the broadcast of Time for Hemp all around the world at timeforhemp.com, Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, and of course on iHeartRadio. Thank you for tuning in, and a big thank you to KDK Distributors and for being nice enough to give us a grant to keep us loud, proud, and strong. And it is Fridays, and on Fridays, it is Small Town Fridays on the big broadcast, where we pull into a small little town, put a spotlight on a hard-working activist who's doing what they can to raise the voice of the movement. And my joint host, Michael Krawitz, and I are having a joint conversation today with Amy Case King. Michael, thank you for taking Time for Hemp.
Well, thanks for having me, Casper. It is great to be here.
And Amy, thank you for being on the big joint broadcast as well.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
And Michael, I will let you and Amy have your joint conversation as I enjoy my medication.
Well, you do that for both of us, Casper. You know, this is a really a great pleasure for me because I've been working now, with Amy for a little bit and getting to know her, and she's really a stellar activist. And I'd like to point out to folks out there that, while it may seem like only big entities, big organizations with big budgets get things done, that's actually not how things get done. Oftentimes, things get done from individuals, and individual action, often with very little funding, very little resources, and just a whole lot of strength of will. Things get done, and then large organizations usually come in to put the icing on the cake. Is usually how it works. And on that note, I introduce Amy Case King. Maybe if you like, you could just kind of take us back and introduce yourself a little bit, where you come from, where you're at.
Wow, where I come from. Well, like you said, my name's Amy. I'm a longtime cannabis consumer. I came by way of the Yucatan, Mexico, if we're talking geographic location. So I live in Mexico. I'm a resident of Texas. And just yesterday, I got to the small little town of Greensburg, Pennsylvania, so that I can travel to Harrisburg on Monday and hold a cannabis education forum, which is being offered to all of the House and Senate members of the Pennsylvania legislature. On Monday, to support a bipartisan bill, which is historic in and of itself in Pennsylvania. So it's really exciting time in Pennsylvania, and I got together with some parents of seizure children, and they were actually the ones instrumental in getting this bipartisan legislation together. There's been
well, just to clarify there, you're talking about children that are responding to these newer extract medicines that have like high CBD extracts and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that. I think that's what started the information gathering for these parents. I don't know that it's. I know that some of the parents were motivated by a woman whose son had autism in California, and she did not only just use a CBD oil to control behavior issues. She used a THC as well. So she was on Good Morning America back in 2009. And then, of course, Dr. Sanjay Gupta and the CBD oil in relation to treatment of children under realm of caring in Colorado. gave it another push. But I think that was just enough information to start dialogue. So that's kind of where I came in, was there was so much questions and confusion, and so we just kind of put together a resource place for parents to go, through social media, and we started exchanging information, and they started becoming more educated. And the more educated they became, the more they realized how uneducated their elected officials were and how archaic the drug laws were and what surrounded them. So that's kind of where we are now, is where I'm come to town to put out an education forum and give a place where we can have some dialogue, so that people can realize how important it is to get informed and get involved and calling and writing their state elected officials. Because we know from polls, and a very big poll here in Pennsylvania says 80% of citizens support access to medical cannabis. So any legislator that votes against it is voting against the will of the people anyways. So it's time that they get educated and get caught up to date. That's what we're all about right now.
That's an amazing thing, isn't it? To have, I often run across people in the legislatures across the country that will say, well, we don't always put in a bill for everything that the public wants. But then I reverse it on them. Well, we're not, complaining that you haven't passed a bill for everything that we want. Tell me another issue where you have 80% support and you don't have any bills being presented. And that's where we were.
Exactly.
So I'm very, very happy that you've got a bill coming in.
Well, there's actually been a history of both. There's been bills in the House and the Senate that have been presented. The problem with that is, again, you have legislators who are trying to implement, proposed legislation, and they don't really know enough about it. So we had some pretty empty legislation. It's still in the early stages, and that leaves room for negotiation and to try and understand or expand more understanding, if you would, of what a successful program would look like and operate like, because we have enough examples of bad programs to learn from. Michigan, for example, they lost their extracts, they lost their edibles, all because they didn't have, defined usable materials. That's a pretty big mistake. And so those are the kinds of things that we want to examine when we look at any kind of legislation that's being proposed, because you can't undo it without doing another bill or creating more legislation. So you don't want to keep going back to the drawing board if you can prevent it. And that's where we also step up or need to step up. Or like you say, the bigger organizations may come in and try to put their spin on it as well.
Well, I think it's worth elaborating on that point that you made just a second ago. It's something that's a little counterintuitive, but when you pass a law and you have a law on the books, it's an effort to get it on the books, to be sure, but it is 10 times the effort to get it off the books. And you don't just remove it from the books. As you said, you have to pass a new bill, a new law that will actually remove the old law. And it's really, really hard. So I just wanted to kind of emphasize that.
Absolutely. Again, not all legislation is good legislation. And so in Pennsylvania, you got to understand, there are no voter ballot initiatives allowed. So anything that comes to be law is only brought by the legislators. And
right.
So that's why it's
Same
important as constituents that we be involved in that legislation process as much as possible. It needs oversight. These are politicians and lawyers. They're not healthcare physicians. They're not healthcare providers. Most of the time, they're not even sick people. Do you know what I'm saying? They're not patients of cannabis therapy. Because if they were, we wouldn't be having this conversation. There'd already be access.
That's for sure. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So we're doing this for veterans. We're doing this for people with MS. We're doing this. We're looking at a whole range of medical conditions beyond just seizure allayment.
I just want to make a point. I'm not even sure that we've had time really to discuss this, off the radio. But in Pennsylvania now, we've had great success. Veterans that are working out there have had some. In Illinois, rather, the veterans have had some great success in establishing rules, much in the reaction to what's going on in the legislature. I mean, they're passing kind of an overly conservative law in Illinois, and now implementing it. And part of that over-conservativeness was to make it where a patient would have to go to their primary care doctor to get a recommendation. And of course, a doctor in the VA, by policy, is not allowed to recommend. So to get around that, we actually wrote a clause that's written into the law that allows a veteran to see someone other than their primary care doctor to get that recommendation. And now even further, we've got a rulemaking that would make it so that the veteran could just take their medical file straight from the VA, which they have access to, it's theirs, and they could bring it to the state and turn it in and get their card. And that I think is fantastic. If we can start getting little things like that into some of these bills, I think that is really going to help both ways. It'll help veterans, obviously, but I think it also helps the legislature to understand the issue a little better, to understand the problems that a veteran faces trying to seek this treatment.
Well, I think part of the lack or the reason that we're so limiting, or that there are certain things that have been excluded, not considered. First of all, veterans who seek their treatment from the Veterans Affairs, as you say, are prohibited under the federal law system from having a cannabis recommendation. We get that. So it places an undue burden on the veteran to now have to try and establish a separate primary care physician. But I look at the bigger picture. It comes back again. Legislators are not educated and qualified unless they want to take the continuing education credits that are available online and get educated about the current understandings of the science and the research and the patients who are accessing it. If then those legislators meet those criteria of understanding, then maybe they're qualified to determine whose condition can be helped or not helped, or who's over-exaggerating, this crap brochure propaganda that I was sharing with you about earlier from the Elks Club. I think we need an education component for anybody who's overseeing the operation, the regulation, or the certification of the end user of the cannabis therapy. That's just my opinion.
That's an interesting point, and I'm glad you brought up your opinion, because I'd like to really talk about that. First of all, Patients at a Time, which is a group that I advise, and I definitely heartily invite people to check them out. Patients at a Time is medicalcannabis.com, and you can access through the University of California,
San Francisco.
San Francisco campus. You can access these courses for continuing medical education credits, and we have actually had sitting senators and delegates from various states come, not so many from the federal system, but from the state system, we've had a few come out to attend these courses live and in person. But I don't know. I wonder if legislators really need this training. I think that in Virginia, it's certainly clear that we're stuck in a bind because we have an old law, and anytime we try to reform it, it puts us into a courts of justice committee, which they have no component of health experience at all. That I think is a problem. The bill like this should be heard in a health committee, but I imagine in Pennsylvania it is being heard in a health committee. So I wonder
actually
if
it's not. We're being heard in Law and Justice on Tuesday. Actually.
See, there you go. That's a problem. That's a very, very big problem. And I agree with you completely. Then they're not qualified.
Well, and here's the thing. I'm not even suggesting that the legislators need to be qualified. They need to recognize that they are not qualified to set the terms and regulations by which a cannabis program operates, was my point. They need to designate educated people to sit on its advisory committee and make the rules about the regulations of the program and how it is to be implemented, is what I'm suggesting. Not a governor-appointed panel who calls themselves the board. They have no criteria. They're appointed by the governor. That turns back into not a healthcare situation. It turns into a political arena. Just like what you have in New Jersey. You had an outgoing governor who implemented a program when you had an incoming governor who refused to act on it. You see what I'm saying? We need to take it away from the politicians. They're not the one to oversight or to appoint people in these conditions when we're talking about health matters. It needs to be put in the hands of people who understand and are willing to look at all sides of it. And that includes law enforcement or people who are against it, because that's what dialogue is all about. But it also should revolve around science, grounded science, not inflamed subjection or supposition or conjecture. It needs to be honest dialogue.
I just wonder personally if a courts of justice or criminal justice subcommittee or committee at the legislature is even capable of passing a positive, working, actual medical marijuana legislation.
Well, okay, I think what happened in this case, and my understanding is that when this bill was first proposed, that it might have started out as a reclassification for specific strains that hold a low percentage of THC. Let's just leave it alone at that and say that's how the dialogue began, and therefore that was going to be a law and justice situation. But what evolved and what formed out of it came this other medical marijuana legislation that we see in SB 1182. So that goes to committee. Hopefully it passes committee, and that's just the first step, because now we have to get it through the House, and that House is a lot bigger than the Senate committee. So it doesn't really matter where it begins, it's how it ends up and whether or not you can educate people to make the right decision to support this kind of legislation. And I think that we have that. Like I said, we go back to the citizen poll, and the citizens are the ones who feel who are impacted by legislation, and if they feel that strongly about it, then the legislator should be taking a well-educated position on it. Not totally. We had one parent write a letter to their legislator telling the story about their 5-year-old child and how all of the medicines have failed them and their quality of life, as well as the status of their life, is in jeopardy every single day. And what I mean by that is we've lost 7 children to seizure since December. Okay, 7 deaths. Hold on one second. And so the politician wrote back in response to this parent's story and said that they cannot condone a 5-year-old smoking a hallucinogenic. I mean, that is just plumb ignorance. Yep. And so that's the kind of mindset that we have to, first of all, inform. Okay, that's just the most ridiculous, absurd claim anyways.
On that note, when we come back from the break, hopefully we'll talk more about that flyer from the opposition that you talked about. But unfortunately, time clicks away, and we actually do have to take a break. So
absolutely.
Well, good green reefer, big fat don't be much sweeter. Hide, don't hide it. Hide, don't hide it. Just lie, don't hide it. Hide, don't hide it. Well, I don't hide it. Fire it up right now.
listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. The only broadcasting network dedicated to ending the global war on drugs on iHeartRadio. Please share us with your friends.
THCF Medical Clinics are the premier physicians clinic in the United States. THCF has offices all across the United States from Hawaii to Michigan. THCF Medical Clinics has helped approximately 150,000 patients obtain their medical marijuana permits to legally possess, grow, and use medical marijuana. If you have chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, or any other neurological degenerative disease, or if you have any gastrointestinal disorders such as GERD, irritable bowel syndrome, or if you have AIDS, cancer, spastic disorders, seizure disorders, or glaucoma, call us at 1-800-723-0188 or visit us online at hemp.org. Again, the number is 1-800-723-0188 and the site is hemp.org.
At Crop King Seeds, we sell the finest marijuana seeds in the world. Grown organically with original genetics, every seed is cultivated for large yields, high THC content, and measured for both CBD and CBN levels. Did we mention we sell more than 20 of the world's best marijuana strains in feminized, auto-flowering, medical, and regular varieties, including White Widow, Blueberry, Purple Kush, Haze Extreme, and so many more. Through our website and friendly call support team, our seeds are available for direct order with speedy worldwide shipping. Crop King Seeds are also sold in over 100 locations worldwide.
Excuse me, I'm looking to buy some Crop King seeds.
Look no further, my friend.
Wow, they're here and in so many strains.
Buy your seeds now, in-store or online at CropKingSeeds.com. Or call us toll-free at 1-844-CROP-KING. That's 1-844-276-7546.
Sometimes you just need to take time to watch the grass grow. That's why the Time for Hemp Broadcasting Network is growing multiple cannabis gardens for you to enjoy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, streaming live in high definition. Watch our gardens to learn how to grow yours. Visit timeforhemp.com right now. The Time for Hemp Broadcasting Network, where we don't just talk about growing cannabis, we do it.
See your money. It ain't right, it ain't fair. Every year you know you're supposed to declare. It must be shown, it must be said. Go get the money from your bed. Your mandate is to show what you got. You came in skinny but now you're fat. Go to market, you buy a good. Election time, they buy a food. Rich enough, you buy a law. Broke man, what you voting for? Pay the pipe, you break the queue. Buy the meat, you get the food. Election time, they sing pretty too. Election, nobody switch their food. Hold it, beat to the fire. 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 Opinion gold, and the Bohemian people just wasn't sold. Then those one with a mighty roar, still the numbers boys and me close the door. Now the PM them do a flip flop. Say Yeah, they gon' regulate the rap shops. Opinion poll was done in haste. And couple million done gone to waste. Yeah. Market, you buy a book. Election time, they buy a book. Rich enough, you buy a law. Broke man, what you voting for? Pay the piper, you pick the two. Buy the meat, you get the book. Election time, they sing pretty too. Election, nobody switch their food. Hold their feet to the fire. 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 Yes! Okay, they ain't no better than you. Tell them, declare. Show what they got, man. Come on. Hey, Mr. MP, why you walking so uppity? Election time when you was broke, you beg and cry to get my vote. Now your pocket's fat and life is great. You're cruising round with your blue plate. Don't take my calls or be with friends. Don't come back looking for my vote again. No! Go to market, you buy a book. Election time, they buy a book. Rich enough, you buy a law. Broke man, what you voting for? Pay the piper, you pick the two. Buy the meat, you get the book. Election time, they sing pretty too. Election, nobody switch their food. Hold their feet to the fire. 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 Yeah! Look here, ain't nobody out here on the run, you know. You're running cause you want run. So get the bun when the bun come. Yes, man! Hey, Mr. Christie, where all them jobs you promised me? You said you believe in Bahamian them, but you only take care of Bahamian friends. Are you paid up? We need the facts. Seems like only 4 people paying tax. Mr. Christie, please hear we please. Get us some of the rag and night money. Yeah! Go to market, you buy a boat. Election time, they buy a boat. Rich enough, you buy a law. Broke man, what you voting for? Pay the piper, you pick the two. Buy the meat, you get the boot. Election time, they sing pretty too. Election, nobody switch their food. Hold their feet to the fire. 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 Go to market, you buy a boat. Election time, they buy a boat. Rich enough, you buy a law. Broke man, what you voting for? Pay the piper, you pick the two. Buy the meat, you get the boot. Election time, they sing pretty too. Election, nobody switch their food. Hold their feet to the fire. 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 Hold him, Joe. Hold their feet to the fire. 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 Hold their feet to the fire.
How would you like to have all the best cannabis info all in one place? Canafo.com is the Google, Facebook, and Craigslist of cannabis. It even has its own social media platform. Canafo.com puts the world of medicinal and recreational cannabis in one place for consumers, businesses, and growers. Canafo.com is a free service where you can find over 9,000 different strains of cannabis, shop cannabis classifieds, and much more. Canafo.com is the world's most comprehensive source for all things cannabis. Get in the know with Canafo.
Welcome back to Time for Hemp. We are celebrating Small Town Fridays with my joint host, Michael Krawitz, and our joint guest, who is working very diligently to end prohibition in her neck of the woods, Amy Case King. And thank you for taking Time for Hemp. And I pass this joint conversation back to my joint guest, Michael Krawitz.
Thank you so much, Casper. Thank you. And I wanted to bring you back, Amy, back to the flyer that you had briefly mentioned from the Elks, and I guess this is about the other than this group that we've been talking about on radio, Sam, pretty much the only opposition that you really have. I mean, 80% support for medical cannabis. Is that pretty much the only opposition that you see is this Elks stuff?
Well, at least at this point, other than the uneducated, this is the first publication that I've seen in opposition or that will be presenting a side at the hearing in this particular case on Tuesday.
what were a couple of the things, if you want, we could discuss a couple of the things kind of quickly, point and counterpoint, being point that they made, counterpoint being the truth.
Right. It says that right now available state data says that less than 10% of what they call Medipot registrations are holders are cancer or HIV or glaucoma patients, and that 90% of registered marijuana complainers are ailments that range from headache to athlete's foot. That's what they're saying is the typical cannabis patient. And then they go on to say that in one California city, 12% of the Medipot card holders are younger than 21. So that's just page one. They really.
Well, let's stop right there. Stop right there for a moment. I don't know about athletes, but I used to actually, back in Prop 215 days, I had a talking point of my own on headaches. I used to say, you say you don't want to have medical marijuana available for people that just have headaches. Well, I have some vets with plates in their heads that have some pretty fierce headaches. I don't know that they're really the people that you're talking about when you're saying you're going to deny them medicine for that headache.
Yeah, I think that, again, probably the headache is a symptom of something else anyways. Again, I don't know where the Elks Club gets their medical association from or its qualifications, but again, I think that it's a decision made between a patient and their healthcare provider, not something that some organization that's a lobbyist group has, can deny my access to something. Well, at the same time, we're talking about, the legislation that makes it a controlled one substance. States controlled one substance by statute has no medicinal benefit. And we absolutely 100% can affirm that that is a lie. That is, in fact, not the case. And the government knows it. The government has known it. It owns a patent on it for cannabinoids as a neurodegenerative against Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and dementia. It already had, at one point, from the National Cancer Institute, back in 1985, owned the patent to what is now Marinol, the palliative treatment for people who are cancer. So that in itself is another admission, regardless of whether it's a synthetic THC pill, it is an admission and an acknowledgement that cannabis therapy is and does have medicinal value.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. Whenever they say that 90% of the patients aren't real, they're actually saying that 10% are real and don't even hear themselves.
Well, so if 12% of the card holders are younger than 21, then 88% of them are adults, consenting adults who are paying for their own health care. And since none of the state programs or the insurance programs support cannabis therapy, it is all funded by the patient. And therefore, nobody really has any business legislating my therapy choice any more than they can stop me from going into GNC and buying some milk thistle or some valerian root.
It should be mentioned also that not only are they paying for that themselves, but in many cases they're replacing therapies that are covered by insurance.
Exactly. And again, we go back to the science. You want to know, we know and have known for, again, quite some time that the introduction of CBD as a single cannabinoid, CBN as a single cannabinoid, and THC as a single cannabinoid can actually enhance barbiturates, anti-epileptics, opiates, reducing, therefore, the need of the more hazardous organ-affecting drugs that we have on the market today. And that's, again, science that has been documented well since the 1940s when we first began to isolate the compounds of the, 60 known potential distinctive therapeutic qualities of cannabis. And this is science. We know enough. Just because the United States tried to legislate it out of existence doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Doesn't mean that the science isn't there. I point that out in my education forum. There are 20,000 known peer-reviewed scientific literature from PubMed, the government repository for scientific literature. 20,000 studies on cannabis versus 600 for hydrocodone. We know enough about cannabis. We know it's safe. We know it's effective. We know that it can assist in so many different ailments, from MRSA, MRSA's been a continual problem in the hospital setting. In this setting, I'm supposed to be environmentally clean and not promoting more sickness than health, right? So they're giving these really strong antibiotics for this resistant bacteria, and there's been studies that show cannabis are effective in not only MRSA but gangrene. I'm not saying that we've had major studies on that, but that's something that needs exploring, more continued look at, instead of producing more resistant by introducing these chemically synthesized antibiotics, to which
people don't realize. We've been so focused by our government on marijuana as an intoxicant and as a thing that you smoke in a joint, that we actually, as a people, really don't understand the full benefits of cannabis yet. I know from an insight into the medical cannabis states that people are using it very successfully externally and using it in a variety of ways that are non-psychoactive. You still need the whole full spectrum plant, but you use it in a way that you just don't have a psychoactive effect. Using it in a juicer that properly juices it without getting it hot, for example, as I'm taught by Dr. Bob Melmead and Dr. Courtney, out there
Dr.
in California. Dr. Courtney, William Courtney, with juicing. It's just an amazing science that we're learning about this plant that we've been using forever.
Yeah, I don't think it's funny. It's not that we're learning about it. It's that we were taught to forget about it. Cannabis has been a food source for over 6,000 years. They wanted us to forget. The birds. Why are we allowed to have access to hemp oil, hemp seed products right now in the United States, even though we've had this nearly century-long, this 80-year-long prohibition from the introduction of the Tax Act? Why have we been allowed to have hemp seeds? Because the bird industry, the Sierra Club, we don't talk about that. They knew nutritionally that if the birds didn't have access to this stuff, that ecologically we would suffer. So there's always been that exemption provided for hemp seed as a nutritional supplement. And that's really the way, if we were super evolved, we would view it, because it does so much for us before it's even flowered.
Yep. I'm trying to also get my brain into these folks that you're talking about, the Elks Club, and the people that would count on that misinformation, where their head is at, and what exactly they're seeing. Because as an advocate, I've been able to get a window inside the cannabis distribution in various states, but that's been hard. I've had to actually really work and go to a lot of different places. You have to go to different counties in a state, see how the distribution systems really play out, meet different patients. It's hard. It's not easy at all. There's no way that you could read information somewhere and get that overview. So, their perspective is almost like, their perspective is almost like one little window into one county in California where they had a bad time, and
no, It's funding. I just followed the link. Okay, this Elks Club brochure says go to www.truecompassion.org, which is a very bland website. It's got a definition of compassion, and then it talks about marijuana, it has resources, and it has a link for prescription drugs. But if you scroll down to the very bottom left corner of the page, the sponsorship for this is the Drug Free America Foundation Incorporated. As you know, they are funded by the same programs and monies that fund DARE. They keep the drug war a failure. They incite this reefer madness mentality. And so you follow the money back. It's always very easy. They've got a nice donation site there too. Whatever. We can.
Well, just a little bit about Drug Free America Foundation. They're the ones that go back to Betty Sembler and back to the straight ink and the torture therapy for kids to get them off of pot.
Oh, Seed Incorporated? Yeah.
Yep.
Calvina Faye.
Yep.
Trace the money to drugtesting.com, implementing these. Well, anyways, that's the politics of it. I like to stick to the science of it.
I want to kind of shift gears when we get back from break, and I think we can set to rest the opposition because it's one lady in Florida. Back to you, Casper.
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network. The only broadcasting network dedicated to ending the global war on drugs on iHeartRadio.
IndiGrow is your source for affordable induction grow lighting. First discovered in 1891 by Nikola Tesla, IndiGrow lights deliver 11 years of electronic sunlight to your plants. IndiGrow lamps require less than half the power of traditional HID lamps. Converting to IndiGrow lights means you'll cut down on your power bill with less lighting. IndiGrow lamps also use 5 times less mercury than traditional fluorescent or HID lamps, making IndiGrow not only energy efficient but environmentally friendly as well. No more switching out lamps between vegetative and flowering stages. As nature intended, your lights get a steady dose of UV light. That makes your plants grow healthier and stronger. IndiGrow products are manufactured in San Diego, California, and come with a written 10-year warranty. What Tesla knew, then growers know now, is that IndiGrow lighting is the cost-effective addition to your victory garden. To learn more or order now, go to inda-grow.com. That's INDA-GRO.com. Or call 877-452-2244 to answer any of your questions. These guys really know lights. IndiGrow really is your sunlight in a box.
Serious Seeds is your source for quality cannabis and sativa seeds. Serious Seeds are the creators of legendary strains like AK-47, Bubblegum, Chronic, Cali Mist, and White Russian. The AK-47 is probably the most awarded strain on the planet. The high THC content of AK-47 makes it the perfect medical strain for patients seeking quick pain relief. Cali Mist is an almost pure sativa. Female medical cannabis patients have reported that this strain helps relieve menstrual cramps. Serious Seeds just acquired another Dutch high-quality seed bank, Magus Genetics. From now on, Serious Seeds can offer you even more award-winning strains. The fine folks at Serious Seeds strive to breed the best cannabis genetics that they can find, so patients can rely on the effectiveness of their medicine. Go to SeriousSeeds.com to grow your medicine. That site again is SeriousSeeds.com.
Have you visited TimeForHemp.com? We're doing something special you'll love to see. We're presenting a live stream of multiple cannabis gardens around the clock in high definition. Come see it now. Lots of people talk about growing cannabis. We do it. Join our growing audience to get inspired by our crops to learn how to cultivate yours. Because at Time for Hemp, we plant seeds of wisdom so we can harvest buds of truth.
At Crop King Seeds, we sell the finest marijuana seeds in the world, including White Widow, Blueberry, Purple Kush, Haze Extreme, and so many more. Our seeds are available for direct order with speedy shipping. Crop King Seeds are also sold in over 100 locations worldwide.
Excuse me, I'm looking to buy some Crop King seeds.
Look no further, my friend.
Wow, they're here and in so many strains.
Buy your seeds now, in-store or online at CropKingSeeds.com.
From the earth. It's a natural thing, you know, and for some reason humans have the audacity to believe that they are more clever and more intelligent than Mother Nature, so they've outlawed the plant. To me, it's just a sign that humans are stupid, and another sign of human stupidity is the continuation of a stupid law. Well, anyway, I don't want to soapbox too much, but I want to let you all know we are a growing network. We used to be just a growing broadcast. I used to be one lowly little hour show, and now there's 20 of us broadcasting 35 hours of beautiful content that is focused on ending prohibition and letting everybody know how important it is to take time for hemp. So let your friends know about us. It's Michael.
Thank you, Casper. And I don't know about stupid. I'm not really a judge for stupid. Stupid is as stupid does, right? I can't judge. But I can tell you that they say the definition of insanity is to do the same thing again and again and again and expect a different result. And we've been doing the same thing again and again for 100 years and ratcheting up the effort and ratcheting up the bad result. It's kind of definitely the definition of insanity. And on that note, you know, we wrapped up for the break that the Elks Club and their insanity and their cherry-picked data was resourced back to a lady in South Florida named Calvina Faye, who's definitely not somebody that you'll have fun debating. So yeah, I think we can almost put them aside. I think, Amy, you know, you were talking about something on break that I would really love you to elaborate on the show, and that is, you know, just how it is, you know, what it's like working individually versus in an organization, the pros and cons of that.
I think that, one, you bring a personal perspective into it without the obligation of being politically correct for the first thing. But the fact that I think what I have found is that people want to come out of the closet, and they feel better when they can do that besides somebody else who's not afraid to take a stand, and that a lot of single individual efforts culminate in the change that we inspire, that we can become. And that's really evident in what's happening here in Pennsylvania. You know, there wasn't a major organization. There isn't a major lobbyist group here spinning this legislation that we've got going on right now. It was the parents knocking on the doors because that's the only way they can affect change. And people have either run out of options or, you know, they want different options. I know I keep going back to these kids, but when we look at the therapy that's offered that shuts down their organs, that doesn't work, not only, you know, a lot of times we hear the old fallback, well, the FDA hasn't approved anything. Again, what we're missing, that missing link about that argument is NIDA controls the medical cannabis research supply. NIDA's mission is contrary to studying medical benefit. So we have a direct conflict of trying to prove something, and so we have this redundant argument. Well, the FDA has approved mega studies. It's NIDA who's throwing the wrench in there. So, it's, again, we get tired. So the only way you can do anything is you have to go where you can change the law. And in this case, in Pennsylvania, you're seeing movements all over the country. You're seeing testimony being given at hearings and councils all over the country. We were just talking about North Virginia. They're going on in Alabama. They're having them in Kentucky. Maryland's revisiting, New
York.
Well, here's the thing about New York. Again, I'm a researcher, so I don't take what I read at face value. New York is one of those. Reinstituting a law in New York from 1980 about a medical marijuana program that didn't really support looking at medical marijuana. It actually looked more at the social impact, again, focusing on addiction and abuse. So it's a really limited reach. I think that was a political move. I think that people got excited without really knowing the underlying intention. That 1980 medical marijuana law is crap.
Of course,
in my opinion. It's not a good medical marijuana program. It would be limited to 20 hospitals, and like I said, it's looking more at the social abuse, addiction impact than it is its medical benefit. So it's a ploy, but nobody looks into it all the way and sees exactly the substance of it. So New York has a long way to go.
I wouldn't say nobody. I wouldn't say nobody. There's a group called Veterans for Medical Cannabis Access that has a team working in New York that's been trying to meet with the governor and talk to him about it. Anyway,
I'm talking about the general public.
Yeah,
the general
public, they're not paying that close attention to a lot of things. General public really, marijuana isn't their top issue. But the thing is that it is for us, and I want you to tell us a little bit about what's going on in Pennsylvania. Tell us, how they can get involved, where they got to be, what they can do to help, that kind of stuff. At
this point, because there really isn't, we do have normal, organized throughout the state, but other than that, there's not a medical support chapter or group. So anybody representative of Pennsylvania that wants access to cannabis therapy should come out. They should contact their legislators, their state representative, and their senator. It's just that you've got to create dialogue, or else you can't be counted. We shouldn't be ashamed anymore to demand access.
So this is definitely the right time for people that have any connection to the legislators in the Senate of Pennsylvania to write a letter right now. This is the time.
Yeah, we're definitely hot and out in force, and also you can find us on Facebook at PA Advocates for Medical Marijuana, and that's just PA, and then Advocates for Medical Marijuana, or MMJ, if you would. And they can find us there and send us a quest, and we'll have a great educational opportunity to get their community involved.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been a real educational opportunity for us, and I really feel like I understand what's going on a little bit better out there in Pennsylvania and what you're up to. And Casper,
thanks so much for having me.
And I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Remind everybody out there listening that we are a growing network, and you can find something on the big broadcast to share with your friends almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, here on the big broadcast, where everybody around the world truly believes it really is time for hemp.
Look at all that money, yeah, the money that they spend. makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, time for help! Yeah!
Since 1990, over 9 million people have broken the rules and got arrested for pot. That's more than the population combined from Alaska, Montana, Wyoming, and even Vermont. Man, that sure seems like a lot. 2005, over 3/4 million American citizens got busted with weed. What burns holes in my tent is 86% were arrested for possession. But what I can't believe is one of those people was me. So what can we do about legalization but rally around and reform legislation that state our position and make it our mission? A change in the law is what we need. It's time we legalize weed. Chief Greenbud is spouting about prison overcrowding, using words like reform, rally, and change. Why should we do time for a victimless crime? Marijuana isn't evil, but it's taking the blame. Don't you think that it's time for a change? So what can we do about legalization but rally around and reform legislation that state our position and make it our mission? A change in the law is what we need. It's time we legalize weed. Let's make it our mission, state our position. Change in the law is what we need. It's time we legalize weed. Yeah, it's time we legalize weed.
You are listening to the Time for Hemp Global Broadcasting Network, the only broadcasting network dedicated to ending the global war on drugs on iHeartRadio. Please share us with your friends.